Welcome back. Here's where you left off. Spoilers ahead for chapters 24 through 30 of Able-Bodied Soldier.
We finally got something that I've been waiting for, and I'm glad we got it. And it's finally, the mechs are finally fighting. And all the training is this, I call it their version 3 of their training worked. Instead of them just flying around like dainty robots, they're actually fighting now. And to be honest with you, I was the way we wrote, the way we spread out the reading chapters. I was annoyed that we had to stop in chapter 31, and I was so in depth with the fight scene and the battle scene and the storytelling. It was very interesting. It was very good, and I totally enjoyed it. What's your perspective in this one?
I think it reminds me a lot of their training, actually. It was kind of sad because I'm sitting there and they're going through the process. They're getting unpacked, and as I expected, an entire chapter was put out for them setting up their beds. I mean, like it
Hey,
dragged
they
a
need
little
to
bit for
sleep,
me.
man. They need to
I know.
sleep.
I know. It was like, just get to it, dude. Anyway, once we get to the fighting part, in a way, I don't have a lot to say about the fighting part because, as I said, it reminded me a lot of their training, and it's good that their training is paying off. They're been restricted so that they can only be flying around. And it's funny. It's like, okay, so you're gonna pretend you're a jet. You're not allowed to be on the ground. You have to pretend you're a jet. Well, that kind of defeats the whole purpose because they're not a considered jet. They're not really, that's not their main purpose. So anyway, so they're flying around being jets, ground support, whatever, and they get into a fight. And you're right, that was great. The interesting thing that I found, and the biggest question I have out of these chapters, is the thing that's been bugging me from the very beginning. These guys, other than Titus, have not fought the aliens at all. They're
You caught
just
that too,
other
didn't you?
humans.
I
They're
caught that as
just
well.
other humans. And the thing that is being made the case of here is, how are they so organized? Why do they have so much equipment? Where are they getting this stuff from? And why are these humans fighting on behalf of these aliens? That question, there's something about this isn't sitting right. Is the leaders, because Titus sort of bring this up, is sort of uh hiding this fact from them, hiding like, because they're organized, they have, they're presented as a rebel sort of underground fighters with a couple guns, and they're just running around doing uncoordinated stuff, where in this, they're like, hey, they have air cover and they have tanks coming in and they have like whatever. um and that's actually a big question about, that's a lot more coordination than just somebody who's trying to shoot you out or have some love for an alien. And so I'm wondering, what is the gimmick here? That's the big question I have, because it doesn't make sense to me that the aliens land, Titus fights them off with his family or whatever. They decide to leave, and a group of humans is like, "Did you see those guys? They're so cool. Let's fight for them." Like, I just don't get the connection.
Yeah. Okay. So let's unpack this. Let's start with the fighting part, right? They, as you said, their training matches what's actually happening now. While they're on air, Titus was like, "Dude, I follow you because I'm not a pilot." Fine, makes sense, makes sense. But as soon as they start going to the ground, Billy was like, "Dude, this is your world now, so tell us what to do." So there's an understanding that everyone has a particular skill set and they're using that skill set, and that's fine. That's the best way to see this, showing that the group is learning how to work together. Awesome. Okay. The second one, the second thing that I want to talk about is that I want to post, not talk about, but post in this conversation is like, they act like a fighter pilots. They tell them we can't talk about anything like that. Fine, They want to keep it a secret. That is understandable. You want to keep everything a secret. No problem. Let's move on. But here's the thing, though. When they decide to head to the ground and start fighting on the ground, right? You know what's missing? They're missing the major and saying, "What are you guys doing?" They just let them go. Do you notice that?
Well, actually, that's a good point. But here's the bigger question: is why did they go through the process to develop these massively advanced mechs and all this when they're only fighting other humans who have outdated equipment, outdated jets, outdated tanks,
But
outdated whatever? Why is it so hard for the military to fight a bunch of rebels that have nothing more than a few jets or whatever? God only knows how they got jets and tanks and stuff, but something is not adding up here.
y-
And when we got into this chapter, when we're like, yeah, we're gonna go finally fight, I'm like, I would have accepted, like, oh, there's an alien guy leading them or something like that, or like, no, we haven't got any of that. It's like something just doesn't add up here. you know?
you said it correctly, though. The rebels are very organized, very well, quote unquote, funded, as in like there's equipment there, right? You're right as well too. There is a hierarchy that we don't know yet. That's fine. That's part of the incitement. This is a part of the questions we want to know in the next book. So it continues, right? Because we know there's going to be 2 more books after this. You made a comment saying why do they have mech to fight humans, right? With outdated equipment. But Titus actually said at the same time several times too that the equipment they're using is from the last war, right? They're still capable because they're designed to fight on Earth. Now they have a mech. Theoretically it's designed to go against the aliens, not the humans. But they already said several times too, but we do not know how capable our these mechs are. So the first thing you're gonna do is fight the rebels, right? And to be honest with you, during the chapters they're just fighting in it, they did not dominant. They were not 100% dominant in the space itself.
I'm
They
still
get-
not with you though. I'm not with you. Why? Here's the thing. If you have this secret thing, and they've made this point about these being super secret, they have to be secret. They have to remain secret. We don't want to give away these new wonderful things and so forth. If they're designed to fight the aliens and you want it to be a secret, and these are rebels that are either communicating with the aliens or whatever, why are you sending your most super secret thing against rebels and not the actual aliens? Because those are the people you develop these things to fight against,
But
right? Like,
there was already conversation why at the beginning. It's like, why are we not going out there? Why are we standby? They're standing by. They're standing by for standing by. They've been standing by to trying to go out. They said the 77th is going to do its best to push them out. Fine, get the human asses out there first before the special forces. Okay, that's their thinking. We're gonna wait. We're gonna hold them back a bit more until absolutely necessary. Next thing you know, it's like, suit up, get out of there, and go fight. They fight. They flew. They do their jet. They do the fighting. They do their flying thing. They were dominant, sort of, because they still get their ass kicked. But at the same time, they're like, okay, so we can't tell them who we are. So they changed their call sign. Fine, cool, whatever. But as soon as you hit the ground, you have a 7-8 foot mech walking around, shooting things, and he already said several times that there are civilians seeing them. Right? As soon as you hit the ground, doesn't matter what the radio chatter is. Someone saw them. Even the rebels saw them. So the secret theoretically is out. They can do possible deniability, saying that no, they can deny the whole thing, say, oh, they're just tanks, for example, right? But the secret is out, right? They cannot say, they can deny it, but they're like, dude, cool, you can deny it, but I have photos, for example. Can you deny this? Oh, that's like Photoshop. Well, I have witnesses that are saying that they saw it. Right? Can you explain X, Y, Z? right? For them to say, yes, we can explain all this and say, oh, it's a tank, oh, it's a plane. Cool. But what are you going to do with all this evidence now? It becomes to the point that they have to acknowledge that this exists soon, because if the rebels saying that, yeah, they have new weapons, this mech thing, and it goes back to the aliens, and the aliens are like, well, we need to stop this right now. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to send more stuff here to help the rebels. They're a little Oompa Loompas to beat the humans. So
Well,
they're
there's huge
escalating
disconnect.
this now.
It's as if the main we've been focused on their training. We've been focused on them getting ready. We've been focused. So that's all been fine. But now that we're in the shit as it is, I'm starting to think that they should be able to mop these guys up pretty easily given their tactics and so forth. Now, admittedly, any new device or whatever, you have to learn to build the tactics around it and so forth. And you could make the argument that they're using other humans as a test bed to figure out their tactics, see if they work, blah, 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 whatever that might be. Fine. Okay. In the end, this is intended to fight the aliens. And we've not seen a single solitary alien in this whole book. Even though they're mentioned, they're really not the antagonists in this book. So the question is, why are these rebels fighting for the aliens? I don't really have an answer for that.
None
Right?
of us have
Like
this
what
answer
do
yet.
so but I mean, we're at the end of the book base. We're at like, I don't know, like 75% or some like we have like a couple short chapters left to the end of the book. I don't know if we're gonna get that answer. And I mean, if I mean, you and I always review the book as a book. Like we're gonna finish this off and we'll do our major book review. And at this point, for what we have left, I'm not sure if I'm going to get a satisfying answer to it. I mean, obviously, I suspect they're gonna end the book off on a cliffhanger of some sort, which is fine. But I'm judging what I've been reading, and there's not a lot of like, why do I hate the rebels? I don't hate the rebels. I'm reading this. They're like, oh, I'm shooting, go kill the rebels. The guys in the 75th are under attack. Okay, well, that's a reason to go blow up the bad guys. But why do we dislike them? What's their motivation? I just don't have answers to those questions. I found it really bothering me. Um, because the story up to this point has been Titus overcoming his barriers and becoming part of this team. Like the vast majority of this book has been that. Okay, now that he's succeeded, the next barrier is fighting these guys. Why is he fighting them? He doesn't even know. He's not even sure about it, right? He doesn't understand. I mean, unless you can think of an explanation in a previous chapter, I can't think of an explanation that they've mentioned. Can you?
Okay. As far as I know, the rebels worships the aliens. Okay.
No, I get that. That was like the brief
yeah.
explanation we got. That's the extent of the explanation we have. But why? Why do they worship it? Are they more intelligent? Do they perceive them as whatever? Because here's the thing. They came to Earth, they kicked their ass and they kicked them off the planet. Apparently, Titus did, okay? And like in Vancouver, yay, Canada. We kicked them off the planet and they're gone. Why are these people worshiping people that have been kicked off the planet? Like, there's something we're missing here.
Yeah.
It's starting to really bug me now.
Yeah. There is something missing there. There's something there that we don't know. We just don't know. Because they very not the book itself is very nonchalant about the explanation why the aliens are there, why the rebels are fighting for them, why is there a proxy war, there's a reason why, there's a reason why we don't know yet. And part of your frustration is like some of the questions that you have hasn't been answered, right? And that's definitely understandable, but at the same time too, that if the author decided, hey, this is going to be a minimum 3 books, they're going to stretch this as long as possible, right? And the fight that they're having right now, currently where we are in the book, is more questions of saying, why are the rebels using outdated equipment, but they're still giving significant enough resistance that the Solar Defense Force is having problems defending Earth? I think that's the question more that you have to ask. It's like,
Oh, you mean like where are they getting all the resources
where are
from?
they getting the resources? Who's training them? Why their tactics are a lot more sound? Let's put questions to you though. Without the mechs in this fight, in this battle, in this fight scene right now, where we are right now in the fight, if you remove the mech, you think the Solar Defense Force will lose? I say so.
Not
Yes.
well. I mean, I don't necessarily think the answer to that question is yes. I think that the process of the book that we've gotten to, the thought process of writing the book, the focus has been on Titus, which is fine. But at this point in the book, where we're basically at the end, other than Titus overcoming his personal barriers and so forth, we don't have a reason for these guys to fight, other than they're worshiping the aliens. And to me, that's not enough answer for we don't know what the percentage of the population is rebels, half the population, whatever. I mean, I had some theories, I have some ideas around that. I'm waiting to the end of the book to discuss it with you, but what I'd like to do is to see an explanation come out of these 10 chapters. So usually you ask me, what am I looking for the last 10 chapters? That's what I'm looking for. I want an explanation as to why these rebels are fighting. That's what I want.
I have a feeling we're not going to get that answer. I get this feeling we're if we I have a feeling we're not going to get that answer. We're probably going to get something very, very vague, right? And that's what's going to happen. And to be honest with you, I still have more questions regarding how these rebels are so well trained, right? And where are they getting their equipment from, right? And the second question, the other question I have is like I said earlier, if you remove the mech out of the equation right now, if they said, "Oh no, mech stays, you're not leaving," let the 77th figure this out, and let them sort this out. When they arrive to the base in Eastern Europe, trucks, vans, vehicles are transporting injured for medical treatment. If the Soul Defense Force is winning, they'll have casualties, but based on what we read, it's pretty severe casualties, right?
I think if you have a group of humans that are fighting for the aliens and they've invaded our planet, the real question is, why are they fighting for them?
Well,
And I can't. Every time I come back to it, I think there could be lots of answers to that question, but as the reader, you haven't given us a reason to dislike the rebels. Maybe they just think they look cool. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's just there's not a lot of motivation for Titus to go out and be like, there's going to be civilian casualties here. Let's make sure we kill them, other than protecting the 75th. Like, that's his motivation in that moment, is protecting those guys. And so I'm with him on it, but it's like even him in the first chapter of the book where he gets injured, there's no explanation as to why that's happening.
That's what I'm saying.
The rebels.
That's what I'm saying. You're not going to get that answer right away. There's no way you're going to get that answer, because they're definitely keeping this close to them as much as possible. And that's, to be honest with you, that is
no. It's a basic issue for me. It's not a here's a reveal later. I mean, you can have a big reveal later, that's fine. But if you can't give an explanation to what's motivating these people to kill their humans, I have a problem with that, because it means that you don't turn your back on your species on a whim. There has to be something more relevant than that. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful we get an answer, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're asking for too much now, man. You're asking for too much. We're definitely, like I said earlier, we're gonna find something slowly, but we're not gonna get a full answer to this one, because there's no way you're gonna answer this question. Because right now, going into what do we have right now? We have one more episode to record for this book, because we're reading 31 to 41, right? And in those chapters, we're talking about 10 more chapters here. In those 10 chapters, they're still going into 31. They're still fighting. I'll bet you going to 32. They're still fighting. 33. They're gonna have a freaking conversation why this happens, right? And I think that's when we're gonna start getting more answers, but not complete answers here, because there's a lot of questions that we have that hasn't been answered. And the biggest thing that I'm kind of getting, I keep trying to find out the answer is, like I said before, if the mechs are not there, would the rebels push the humans, would the rebels push the rest of the humans away from the base, or will they attack the base? Right? I think that's the thing, though, because remember at the beginning of 30 25, 26, or even 28, they attacked the base, right? They were literally at the gates, right? And they get to push back. Right? They pushed back to the town, back to the university. They were fighting there. The rebels has tank columns there. They had everything under control, right? Because based on the information we receive, the 75th is being they're getting their ass kicked. In other words, it's literally, that's what it is. They're getting their ass kicked because they're exhausted. Okay, and if, like, again, back in the beginning, back to my same question, if the mechs weren't there, would they lose? My answer is yes, they're gonna lose. But the mechs,
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, man. I can't. I can't say that because they haven't been quote unquote losing, because the purpose of making the mechs in the explanation of the book is to fight the aliens.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Derek. If you remove the mech equation and current situation right now, don't worry about the aliens right now. The current situation, without the mech, would the Soul Defense Force lose this battle? Based on the information we receive, my answer is yes. The only way they won this is if those mechs actually took off. Right? Now we're back in the question is, why did the scenario was written in a way that if the mech shows up, they're gonna save it. They're gonna save this battle. They're gonna be saving the soldiers. Without the mech, they will die. Literally, that's the scenario that's been given to us. Right? So this is becoming a prelude to say, the mech is here. Like, you actually asked this question. If the mech's supposed to be secretive, just flying like planes, why did the mech went down to the ground?
Well, because Joe was like, forget this. We've got to go down to the ground. I mean, that was his military decision.
Yeah.
That was his... I mean, he wasn't supposed to, but he made that decision.
But
so
now the question I posed earlier as well.
I just said Joe. I just said Joe. Titus. I mean, you didn't catch it. I didn't catch it. No, I totally caught myself.
Okay, what you just said, because he's an army guy, he goes down there. He wants to save his buddies, his old unit. Fine. I have no problems with that. Right. So now I posed this question earlier. Why did the major said anything about, what the hell are you doing? Get back in there. What are you doing? Are they forcing them to be out there, but at the same time provide deniability? Yes. You know what I'm talking about here? Because if you want to keep this a secret, the major will probably be freaking out right now on the radio to get your ass back in the air. What are you doing? Or ask them to get back into the hangar.
I think you're really stretching it here, man. I'm
not. I'm literally
really
asking a simple question here. It's like, if you post a question saying that this is supposed to be very secretive. They even changed their call sign. They even changed everything to show that they are just planes. As soon as they landed, why did their unit commander tell them to smart enough get back in the air? Right. I
think that either, to be honest, the writers of the book missed that in the context of a question, in the lieu of the quote unquote action, you know what I mean? Not considering that question. I think that's the most likely explanation here because we haven't seen a lot of depth in regards to that sort of thinking around or writing around the motivations or the ability to do that. So I think that we're going to get over the next few chapters is some more fighting and some sort of cliffhanger related to that. Maybe it's related to the rebels, maybe it's related to the aliens, but one way or another, we're going to get some sort of cliffhanger. Join us next time as we review chapters 31 to 41 of Able-Bodied Soldier. Thank you for opening the book with us today. Subscribe so you won't miss our next episode. We would love to hear from you. Share a review or email us at yourbookmarksinfo@gmail.com. Join us again right here where you left off.